The program. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners.
Okay, big budget on Wednesday, and I wonder what needs to be in it to satisfy the needs of Labour.
Well, at least we will expect that the budget supports the State of the Nation address, in particular, supports the drive for greater levels of expenditure on infrastructure that has been announced. And we can't see why this time around government budget would not push above the 10% of the GDP. And we have been expressing a concern in the recent years that whereas we seeing the infrastructure is part of the 5 job drivers in terms of the new growth path, but we have been seeing a decline in expenditure, and we hope that we're going to see a move up in this budget speech.
All right, you talked about jobs. Last year's speech was pretty much geared towards job creation. Are you satisfied a year down the line that we've made inroads?
Look, there's some glimpse of hope, I must say. You saw that we recorded the 365,000 growth in jobs between October of 2010 and October of 2011. In a background where we lost over 1 million between 2008 and 2010, you have to say that that was a better news than any other news in the country. And we hope that the budget will support a drive towards ensuring that we're not just seeing that as a hope, but as a centerpiece of every programs that we must implement moving forward. Jobs, jobs, jobs have to be in the lingo of the Minister of Finance as well.
All right, you say jobs, jobs, jobs. We've seen massive upheavals at minor implants. Some of it perhaps could have been avoided. People striking when the strike's not protected. We're seeing new unions coming through, and we're hearing stories that people were being misled. Could things have been handled differently there?
I guess so. There's always a lesson for every upheaval. The Amplat issue is a rather very unfortunate development in the South African labor market. We have come to be accustomed to very strong, large trade unions that are an agent for collective bargaining purpose with the employers. When you have that destabilized because of some weaknesses, divisions, and splinter unions and workers feeling that they ought to go for the shortcuts in terms of instead of following the procedures as we know them, then you know that you're going to be a sitting duck to wildcat strikes as the ones we are seeing in Amplants. The NUM have been doing well in the recent days to try and step in and to say that we remain the legitimate collective bargaining agent, and then they engage the management at the most senior level.
If I'm hearing you correctly, you're suggesting that sometimes you have sympathy for the employer.
No. All I know is that the employers in South Africa and the trade unions have learned that the unions are here to stay, and have accepted that it is far more better to have large, big unions that speak orderly, engage orderly with themselves, and have a normal collective bargaining processes that are within the precinct of the law.
Okay. So these new smaller unions might not be a good idea.
The splinter unions and is not a good idea even for the employers, because even though they like to divide workers, but when the full cost of those divisions is playing itself out in terms of the wildcat strikes and no clear leadership coming to the fore that they can engage, then it becomes much more costly for themselves.
All right, and very briefly now, finally, labour brokers, is there no middle ground? You want them destroyed completely, don't you?
We want them banned altogether. We can't see how South Africa can claim that it has a vision of a decent work and fair labor standards, and then tolerate the existence of the labor brokers, which in every respect are human trafficking. They're selling desperate workers to the employers or to the highest bidder at a price, and for them to make money and for the employers to sidestep their responsibilities to the labor laws. And as a result of their existence, we're seeing South Africa simply moving in the past 18 years from one of the most unequal societies to be the most unequal society in the world.
Isn't regulation a better answer?
Regulation is there already, and regulations have not worked. 33% of the South African workers are employed as temporal. Atypical forms of jobs are employed by the labor brokers as we speak. 48% of South African population is living on a 325 rands a month already. 40% of the South African workers are earning or are living on a 10 rands a day. That shows you the extent of just inequalities in South Africa, that 50% of the population lives on a 8% income. And meaning that 50% is living on a 92% income.
We're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, but I guess your marches for March 7 continue at this stage.
Against labor brokers as well as against the e-toll gates in Gauteng.
All right. COSATU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Thank you so much.